Hey traders, Raghee here, and I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the NASDAQ and a number of the earnings and a few strategies that I use. We've been talking about this for a few weeks. Some of you have seen this in the premium video. We've covered this in a couple recaps. So I love doing this when the markets are in the midst of some major earnings. And in this recap video, we're going to cover Google, NASDAQ. We're going to cover the AMD markets as well, talking about just major earnings. So let's start with how we do this, and I'm going to show you right now. So I have Word documents that sit on my desktop, and they have the top 25 of the major indexes that I trade. So the SPOOs, the NAS, the Dow, and then any major ETF that I trade, I'll definitely grab the top 10 or 5. And what I always want to do during earnings season is grab that list and head on over to the FinViz stock screener, plug that in, and then I'll do a couple quick scans. And that the basics are, I want to find average volume over 750,000. If I'm looking for a long position, generally I'd rather the float be at least above 20%, although I won't always put that in here, the float over 20. But that's an easy one to plug in to whittle the list down. But the reason the list is going to be whittled down and really easily is going to be because I put the earnings for this week. So right now you'll notice I've just got two settings here, over 750 and earnings this week. So once I've done that, on the top 25 NAS, this is the list that I get. A really nice list, quick list of 13 names. Then from those 13 names, I know the different earnings that are coming out that are going to affect the market that I'm watching. And there's been a couple of different earnings that have been on my radar. AMD's been on my radar as well. I've been watching AMD, obviously earnings this week. So I'll open that in a new tab. This is after the market closed today. So I'm going to use these as a couple examples of something we call the Shockwave Setup. Now I'm going to show you Google's. We did this one live yesterday in the chat room. So a couple basic things. No higher high, sideways market trend. The Shockwave is a play on the event. So the Shockwave would be a put that I would play as long as the market did not exceed this high, and I would look for the put with the Shockwave. Now some easy Shockwave levels. We could look at previous highs, lows, the wave. We could look at the midpoint range. That's another easy one to grab. And you buy puts with that strike. But really the thing that I want is to get long. That's really what I want. So it's easier for me to start to think about getting long in Google now that we've had the Shockwave. And what's the Shockwave? Boom, that moved to the downside. That's the Shockwave. Well, let's talk about another earnings here. This is AMD. And by the way, why am I interested in these names specifically? Because these are the names that could affect what's going on with my assessment of what's happening with the NAS, right? So I'm not necessarily looking for AMD. I'm looking at AMD because there's earnings. So it's another Shockwave opportunity. So I'm going to show you another one here, not necessarily because of the NAS. Tomorrow's Facebook. We'll do that one here as well. Why would a futures trader be looking at names like this? Because if I'm looking for some weakness, which I think we could see, just some near-term pullbacks on the NQ, it's going to be these names during earnings that are going to drive it. So what do? I create a zone where I would look for potential puts to play the Shockwave. Now, how much further down could a market like this go? If I'm looking for a Shockwave here, what am I looking at? Well, this market's actually, unlike Google, a little bit more in an uptrend. Google was in distribution. AMD is in a kind of a shallow uptrend. So once we pierce this level, see that pierce right there? That's where we shop for the puts. But what's my strike? Here's what's tricky. The Shockwave is a little less desirable here, but my strike is down here, basically at that 34 EMA on the high, because what is it that I want to do here? It's the strike, sure, but more importantly, what is it? I want to get long. I want to do the trend follow off that level, which would be something I call catch the wick. This really is all about, sure, there may be some weakness, but I want to catch the wick and try to get long around 1355. That's the plan. All right, so let's go take a look at what earnings have done. So notice all this is set up before earnings. I know all these levels before earnings. We go into earnings knowing all this. Let's go to the 5-minute chart so we can see how this reacted. Now, here we are up higher. So would your put play wasn't really the play. It was a shockwave play. It was the aggressive play. But notice where we went down to. 1346. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Now, that's where we want to get long. The problem with getting into plays like this is, can I get long AMD off this level here, 1355? I can't, right? That's the problem. So your best bet's to think about how tomorrow you could consider getting long, building a position as this trend continues higher. And a lot of times when traders walk into an event like this, they want to pick a side. That's what I always am looking to do. And this is how I'll do it. So Google worked great. I think that AMD did what we thought it should do. It actually tagged that level really easily. But again, this is the challenge of playing markets like this during earnings. But it's really easy to say, hey, I have a bullish bias. The same thing's going to happen here. I'll look at the Shockwave, maybe the 161 level, as I'd rather be long. There's no reason I should be thinking really anything other than that. I want to be long. If we don't punch up to a higher high during the session tomorrow, I'd like to see this market snap back and give me the opportunity to do what? Catch the wick. So let's bring this full circle to the market that I'm watching right now, which is the NAS, for possibly a quick little rollover. We're just stalling up in this area. Why do I want the rollover? Same conversation, gang. I want to get long from this zone, 5805, 5755. Same thing with the ES, same thing with the Dow. I am looking for pullback buys. All right. So I wanted to show you how we do the Shockwave. By the way, the course and the live trading for the Shockwave course that I did about a year ago is available to members in Simpler Futures. So this is a tactic that you're thinking you want to learn more about. I kind of ran through it very, very quickly here. This has been a very profitable way, not just to play earnings, but to play any high impact event in the currency markets, in the futures markets. It's been a very effective way for me to play volatility with limited risk, and that's the Shockwave setups. And again, it's available for free to all members. So if you haven't checked out the site yet, do so. You can see more about the Shockwaves and the rules that I use and the correlations even that we use for Shockwaves in the Learning Center built into the Simpler Futures membership. See you in the next update.